Everyone talks about financial freedom, but no one really shows what it actually looks like when you get there. People imagine it's constant travel, cars, no stress. Some of that's true, but what they don't realize is that freedom has a completely different meaning once you're living it. In this video, I'm going to show you what life actually looks like when your business starts doing over 100K per month, the good, the boring, and the parts that'll probably surprise you. My name is Michael Elliott, and I've built multiple Amazon brands generating multiple seven figures by the time I turned 25. But when I started, I wasn't trying to make $100,000 a month. I just wanted to have something of my own, something that gave me control over my time and money. Years later, I've been able to travel when I want, drive my dream cars, and help my family in ways I used to only think about. But what actually got me here isn't what people think it is. And that's what I want to walk you through in this video, what my day-to-day really looks like now and what it actually takes to get here. People think once you're making six figures a month online, you wake up whenever you want, have breakfast at noon, and somehow life just runs on autopilot. But it's not like that. If anything, I've realized the more success you create, the more structure you need to actually hold onto it. And so when I was first starting out, I thought structure killed freedom. I wanted to work whenever I felt inspired. But now I see it's the opposite. Structure is what gives you freedom. Because when you actually have things running at a higher level, multiple products, logistics, suppliers, people waiting on your decisions, your lack of structure starts to affect everything. And that's why my mornings are really the most intentional part of my day. I don't start by checking emails or messages. That kind of just throws you into reaction mode before you've even had a chance to think. So I start slow. I usually wake up early around 6:45, 7 a.m., move around a bit, go for a walk, sometimes hit the gym in the morning, other times midday. And the point isn't to have a perfect routine, it's just to create space to think clearly before the noise starts. When I was still trying to figure this out, my mornings were chaos. I'd roll out of bed, grab my laptop, and start reacting to whatever problem was in front of me. And it felt productive, but it wasn't. I was busy, not intentional. Now mornings are where I actually plan. I look at the numbers, but I do it calmly. Sales, inventory, ads, and instead of reacting, I ask why. Why are things trending up or down? What needs to be adjusted? And that one small shift from reacting to reflecting completely changed how I make decisions. People assume discipline and freedom are opposites, but they're actually connected. The freedom everyone wants to travel, to work from anywhere, to have time with family, it only exists because of discipline. So if I don't keep that discipline, the business stops giving me freedom. It starts taking it away. So even when I'm traveling, I keep structure, right? A few hours in the morning to check data, review performance, talk to the team, and then the rest of the day is mine. And that rhythm keeps me grounded. It's not restrictive. It's what keeps everything in balance. One thing I do make sure of is I am always available to my team though. I used to think being busy was a good thing. Like if I was constantly working, I was making progress, but most of the time being busy just means you're avoiding focus. Now I stick to a few core habits that actually make me feel stable. Waking up early, moving my body, and reviewing my top 3 priorities for the day. That's it. There's no crazy 4 a.m. cold plunge routine, just clarity and movement. Because when you feel grounded, you make better decisions. And better decisions are what keep the business and your peace of mind running smoothly. Honestly, there are a lot of days where motivation isn't there, and that's normal. I don't try to fix that feeling anymore. I just lean on habits to carry me through it. Because if I relied on motivation every day, I'd still be stuck at square one. So when those days come, I remind myself that even 50% effort done consistently is going to beat 100% effort done randomly. And usually by the time I start working, that lack of motivation fades because progress itself is what creates momentum. You can't wait to feel ready, you have to act, and then the feeling will follow. Now at a certain point, success doesn't come from doing more, it comes from staying steady. Because when the business grows, there's more noise, more opportunities, overall just more distractions. And so without structure, all that growth starts to control you instead of the other way around. The reason structure matters so much now is because it keeps me focused on what actually matters, right? The few key things that drive everything else. It's not about controlling every minute of my life. It's about protecting the space that allows me to think clearly and make smart decisions. And that's really the truth about mornings at this stage. They're not glamorous. They're calm, consistent, and intentional. Because when you start your day with clarity, everything else, your team, your business, your mindset follows that same energy. When you're building toward $100,000 months, your workday looks completely different than when you're maintaining it. Early on, I was doing everything myself, product research, managing suppliers, creating listings, answering every customer message, and it felt like everything depended on me. Now it's the complete opposite. My day isn't about trying to do more, it's about making better decisions with less noise. That's really been the biggest shift, because most people think about scaling is about stacking more products, more ads, more people. But in reality, it's about simplifying, cutting out everything that doesn't move the needle and going deeper on the few things that actually do. Nowadays are structured, right? Not overfilled, just clear. I start by checking my core numbers, sales, ad spend, inventory levels, supplier updates. I'm not glued to them. I just look for trends or red flags. That takes maybe 20 minutes. After that, I block out a few hours of deep work, no messages, no distractions. That's when I'll analyze performance data, test new keywords, or maybe plan the next launch. I've learned that those quiet, focused hours are where the biggest decisions get made. Once that's done, the rest of my day is usually calls and just communication, checking in with suppliers, approving orders, reviewing updates from my team. And by the evening, I try to shut it down completely, because if you don't give yourself an off switch, the business never stops asking for your attention. That balance changes as you grow. In the beginning, I had no choice but to execute, right? I was the only one doing anything. But once things started to scale, I realized execution alone wasn't enough. You can't think long-term if you're buried in tasks all day. Now I spend most of my time on strategy, right? Asking why before how. Why are sales trending that way? Why is one product outperforming another? That's where growth actually comes from. Not by doing more, but by just thinking deeper. So when I catch myself slipping back into constant execution, it's usually a sign something in the system needs fixing. Because at this level, if you're always reacting, you're not leading. Even with the team and systems in place, there are still a few things I'll always keep close. So product research is one of them. That's where instinct and experience matters most. You can't automate that. I also personally review the key numbers, sales reports, ad data, profit margins, not because I don't trust anyone, but because I want to stay connected to the pulse of the business. Numbers tell you the truth before people do. Everything else, customer support, admin, logistics, it's handled by other people. And that's not about ego, it's just about where I'm putting my time and where it creates the most leverage. And when it comes to deciding what to delegate, it's simple. I ask myself, does this task require me or just someone? If it only needs someone, I delegate it. If it needs my experience, creativity, or judgment, then I'll keep it. That mindset shift has helped a lot, because delegation isn't about doing less, it's about doing the right things. Because the truth is, if you try to hold on to everything, you become the ceiling. And I didn't build this to be the bottleneck. The one thing that surprises me about running a 7-figure business is honestly how normal it feels. When I was starting out, I thought hitting 100K a month would feel like this constant high, like every day would feel different. But it's not like that. It's stable. It's calm. You don't chase excitement anymore. You build consistency. And that's the best part, because once things are stable, you finally get to experience the freedom you were working for in the first place. You can step away, travel, take care of family, and know everything still runs. And that's the real goal. Not adrenaline, not chaos, just peace, the quiet kind that comes from knowing you built something solid. Money doesn't fix your mindset, it amplifies it. The way you think, your habits, your stress, they all follow you. The difference is now the stakes are a lot higher. When I started making real money, I thought all of the little problems would disappear. But what actually happened is they just changed shape. The same doubts, the same pressure, it's all still there. It just comes with bigger numbers and more responsibility attached to it. When I first hit 6 figures in a month, I expected life to feel completely different. I thought I'd wake up one day and everything would just click. No stress, no worries, just freedom. But it doesn't work like that. The truth is your lifestyle changes, but you don't automatically change with it. You have to grow into the person who can handle what you built. And at first I did all the surface level stuff, right? Bought the car I always wanted, took the trips, moved into a nicer spot. And for a while that feels pretty good, but it's everything you thought you were working towards. But once you actually achieve those things, the excitement wears off. You realize something, if your daily life doesn't have purpose behind it, the money won't fill the gap. And that's when things shifted for me. I started caring less about how my life looked and more how it felt. Now I still travel, I still enjoy the things I've worked for, but it's different. I'm intentional about it. I take trips because I want to, not because I need to prove something. I plan my days around peace and focus, not constant activity. It's less about escaping work and more about building a life I don't want to escape from. Some things definitely got easier. I don't worry about bills. I don't check my account before booking flights, and I can do things for my family or my loved ones without thinking twice. And that's something I'll never take for granted. But other things do get harder. When you reach this point, you start to feel the weight of responsibility. You realize people depend on your decisions, your team, your brand, your suppliers. So every mistake is more expensive. Every delay affects more people. It's weird. You spend years chasing growth and then you have to learn how to slow down again. Because if you don't, the same drive that got you here starts to burn you out. And I had to learn that resting isn't falling behind, it's just part of staying sharp. Over time, my definition of freedom changed. I used to think freedom meant doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. But now it's the opposite. It's being able to say no to things that don't matter. It's knowing you could take a week off without everything collapsing. It's not about escaping responsibility, it's about having control over it. And that's a big difference. You start realizing freedom isn't about doing nothing, it's about doing the right things for the right reasons. And that's the kind of balance that actually lasts. And when you're surrounded by success every day, it starts to feel normal, right? You hit new milestones, but they don't hit you the same way anymore. And that's when gratitude becomes something you kind of have to practice on purpose, right? I remind myself where I started, the nights I was doubting if this would even work, the times I almost quit. And remembering that version of myself keeps me grounded. I also try to keep parts of my life offline, right? Not everything needs to be shared or monetized. I take time to just live, go for drives, spend time with family, travel without turning it into content. The more success you get, the more you realize how valuable those private, quiet moments actually are. And I think that really hit me once I started noticing how quickly the highs fade. You buy something you've wanted for years, or you hit a record month, and for a few days it feels amazing, but then it's just normal again. You're still you, same thoughts, same worries, same habits, just with more resources. That's when I realized money doesn't fix how you feel about yourself. It just turns the volume up on whatever's already there. At a certain point, you stop chasing that rush and start craving peace instead. You start caring less about the milestones and more about what your day-to-day actually feels like. Because if the work doesn't mean something, the results never will. Money makes life easier, sure, but it doesn't make it fuller. The real fulfillment comes from alignment, doing something you're proud of, building something that matters, and actually liking who you are while you do it. No one really talks about this part, the mental side. Because hitting big numbers doesn't magically make stress disappear. You still feel pressure, you still overthink, you still doubt yourself sometimes. The only difference is that now the stakes are even higher. Every decision matters more. Every mistake costs more, and when things start moving fast, it's easy to forget that you're still human underneath all of it. Most people think success makes you confident, and it doesn't. It just gives you new problems to solve, and you have to learn how to handle them without burning out. When I was first getting into business, stress felt constant, right? Every little thing felt like a make or break moment. A supplier delay, a bad review, a slow day of sales, I'd spiral over it. Everything felt personal because I didn't have perspective yet. Now, I've learned to slow down before reacting, right? When something goes wrong, I don't ask, why me anymore? I ask, okay, what's this showing me? It's the same problem, but just a completely different mindset. You realize that uncertainty is part of the job. There's always going to be something you can't predict. Market shifts, competition, random changes on Amazon's side. But the difference now is I don't fight that anymore. I expect it. And because I expect it, it doesn't throw me off balance like it used to. Now, the biggest shift was learning how to separate emotion from execution. Early on, I let my feelings dictate my decisions. If sales were up, I felt unstoppable. If they dropped, I felt like a failure. And it's exhausting to run a business from that place. Now, I make my decisions based on logic and data, not emotion. That doesn't mean you turn into a robot, it just means you stop riding the emotional roller coaster. You start viewing everything like feedback. Wins and losses both tell you something, and when you can see it that way, the highs don't make you reckless and the lows don't break you. Now, there's definitely pressure that comes with success, right? You're responsible for people, for systems, for money, and it never really goes away. What's changed is how I carry it. I don't try to control everything anymore. I've learned that trying to hold it all in your hands 24/7 will crush you. Now I focus on controlling my effort, not every outcome. I trust the systems I've built, I trust my team, and I trust myself to adapt if something does go wrong. That mindset shift made things a lot lighter, not easier, but just lighter. Because when you stop trying to hold everything perfectly, you finally have space to breathe again. Now that line gets blurry, especially when you love what you do. For me, healthy ambition feels exciting. It pushes me forward without draining me. Burnout feels heavy, like you're forcing yourself to keep moving even though you've got nothing left to give. The difference usually comes down to why you're working. When you're chasing something out of insecurity, trying to prove you're enough, trying to keep up, it drains you. But when you're building something from passion and purpose, it energizes you even when it's hard. I've had to learn that rest doesn't kill momentum, but burnout does. Gratitude has to be intentional once success becomes normal. It's easy to start taking things for granted when they're no longer new. So I try to remind myself daily that none of this was guaranteed, right? I think back to how badly I wanted what I have now. Not to glorify the struggle, but just to stay connected to it. And balance for me comes from remembering why I started. It wasn't just to make money, it was to have control over my time, to be present for the people I care about, to live life on my own terms. If I'm growing but losing that in the process, then I'm not actually winning. So I build space for gratitude in my routine, although it is still something that I do struggle with. So time to unplug, time to be around family, right? Time to just exist. That's what keeps everything in perspective. At this point, success isn't about how much I can handle, it's about how steady I can stay while handling it. Because the goal was never to escape pressure, it was to learn how to move through it without losing myself in the process. If you're watching this, you probably want to know what it actually feels like once you finally get there. And honestly, it's not fireworks. It's peace, it's being able to take care of your family, travel without checking your bank account, it's knowing that every hour you've put in actually meant something. And most people think the joy comes from the number, but it's really the quiet confidence of knowing you built something that works, something that gives you freedom, but also purpose. Also, for me personally, there wasn't a single moment where I felt like I made it. It was more subtle, these small moments that hit me out of nowhere, like buying my dad a Rolex or buying my mom an expensive purse she's always wanted, being able to fly somewhere on a whim and not stress about money, or even just sitting at my desk one morning and realizing I wasn't anxious anymore. Those are the moments where it actually sinks in, not because of what you bought, but because of what you don't have to worry about anymore. And it's weird because you work for years chasing one big moment, and then you realize it's a bunch of small ones that end up meaning a lot more. So when I first started, fulfillment came from results. I wanted to see the numbers go up. That was how I measured progress. But now it's different. Fulfillment comes from alignment. It's when the work I'm doing actually feels connected to who I want to be. It's not about constant hustle anymore. It's about doing meaningful work without losing peace in the process. I used to think fulfillment was the finish line. Now I see it as the fuel that keeps everything moving. It's what makes you wake up excited to keep building even after you've already made it. Now, how do I stay motivated after hitting my original goals? That's a question I asked myself a lot after things started taking off, because when your original goals become normal, it's easy to feel lost. Like, what now? For me, the motivation shifted from chasing more to building better. I started focusing on depth instead of scale, improving systems, helping people I care about, refining what I've already built. The motivation also comes from curiosity, right? I still love learning. I still love testing ideas. I still love seeing something start as nothing and turn into something that works. That's the part that never gets old. The thing I'm most grateful to have control over is definitely freedom over my time, without question. Being able to decide when and how I work, that is the real luxury. I don't have to ask anyone for permission to take a trip, to take a break, or to spend a day doing nothing. That's something I remind myself of constantly. And beyond time, I'm grateful to be able to take care of people, right? Whether it's family, friends, or someone who's helped me along the way, being able to give back freely is something I'll never get used to. That's the kind of control that actually matters. Now, if I could tell my younger self one thing about success, I'd tell myself to stop rushing. You think you're behind because everyone online looks like they're ahead, but if you just stay consistent, things start compounding faster than you'd ever expect. I'd also tell them that success doesn't feel like what you think it will. It's really just been more about peace and fulfillment. It's not about the rush, it's about the freedom that comes when you finally realize you don't have to prove anything anymore. At the end of the day, the real reward isn't the cars or the numbers, it's the person you become in the process. It's the confidence that you can build something from nothing and make it work. That's a feeling that stays. Everything else comes and goes, but that quiet peace, that's the part that makes it all worth it. If you're serious about building a business that gives you real freedom, no fake overnight results, I put together a free 4-hour Amazon masterclass on my YouTube channel that breaks down exactly how I built this from scratch. It's really the most honest and detailed walkthrough I've made. No fluff, no shortcuts, just the real steps that actually work. So go check it out if you're ready to start building something that gives you control over your time, money, and life.